Welcome to hell, I tell myself. And I am afraid.
What makes a god divine? Is it just their power? Is it the fact that humans believe in them so much that they become part of existence? Or is it the fact that they possess weapons and symbols of such immense power that they boggle the mind? In the Sandman universe, it's all of those things, and a whole lot more. But to identify a god, the primary devices used are the symbols and tools associated with them. Hermes wouldn't be Hermes without the Caduceus, now would he? And the same goes for Dream, aka Morpheus, king of all dreams and stories that ever were and ever will be. In this video, we'll take a look at Morpheus' 3 most important symbols of power, and break down what each of them does in detail. So put on your spoiler hats, otherwise this will be one bumpy ride. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, let's begin.
Someone's altered it.
The Dreamstone, the very essence of the Dream King. One of the first and most powerful tools in Dream's possession is the Dreamstone. The Dreamstone is no ordinary ruby. It's a jewel that contains the essence of Morpheus' existence. Think of it like a Horcrux, except there are no negative or immortality bestowing implications attached to it. A very long time ago, long before he even created his Helm, Dream fashioned the Dream Ruby with the pure essence of dreams. With it, he's capable of bringing any dream or nightmare to life, and that's why we called it a Horcrux after a fashion. The Dreamstone is one of the most important tools in Morpheus' possession. It is activated whenever its possessor wishes to use a large quantity of dream essence to make or unmake a thing, a person, a place, a universe. All lies within its scope of affectation, because Dream is the ruler of dreams, and therefore reality. In the Sandman franchise, dreams and reality are said to be far closer than anyone can imagine, and this is true when you think about the way dreams work for us. A dream is an unconscious manifestation of our deepest fears, desires, and motivations in life. They can be anything, and based on any frame of reference that exists within our minds. So if you have a fear of heights, for example, and are anxious about learning how to drive up inclined roads, you might get a nightmare that shows you driving up a vertical tower, amplifying your pre-existing fears. This tower might be a place you're intimately familiar with, or something you've only seen in a picture in passing. The point is, dreams and reality are intertwined, and the Dream Ruby is capable of conjuring the exact aspect of its possessor's will. Though the Dreamstone is Morpheus' main tool of power, he can create Dreamstones similar to it to pull off feats that require immense amounts of dream essence. When Morpheus has a falling out with Alienora, the lover that Desire made for him, he tells her to leave the dreaming, but she says she can't because it's all she's ever known. So Dream constructs an entire land for her at the edge of the dreaming, and he creates a ruby quartz to both power and sustain it. He tells Alienora that the land will exist as long as the quartz does, and if she wishes to leave it, all she has to do is crush it and he will unmake the land. Alienora doesn't take him up on his offer though, and she dies of natural causes, which turns the land into a safe haven for the women of the universe. This quartz is known as the Porpentine by the time Barbie enters the land, and when it's destroyed in her struggle with the Cuckoo, Dream arrives and reabsorbs the land. He also creates a green gemstone called the Eagle Stone as a way to allow birds to dream. The gemstone is referenced in the first season's special episode, where one of Richard Maddox's novels is called Eagle Stone. None of these gems would have been created had Dream not had the power of his own ruby, which is why his imprisonment creates such a problem for him. When he's captured by Magus Burgess, he loses all of his symbols of power to humanity, and his ruby ends up in the possession of John Dee, also known as Dr. Destiny in DC Comics. John is able to reconfigure the ruby to respond only to his will, because the ruby responds to the will of its possessor, not exactly its creator. And that's what allows John to cause the terrifying events that unfold in the 5th episode of Sandman's first season. In his climactic battle with Morpheus, John comes to believe that he has defeated the Dream Lord and can now take his place, but he makes one big mistake. He doesn't take into account where the fight occurs. Because he crushes the ruby within the dreaming, instead of destroying Morpheus, it makes him whole again, and he endeavors to never sever such an important part of himself ever again. That's why in episode 6, he tells Death that he's more powerful than he ever was. That's because a part of him was always within the ruby, which he has now reabsorbed. You'll notice that Dream hasn't worn his ruby ever since his fight with John, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't see it again. In the graphic novels, he recreates it shortly before his impending death, and plants it within the head of a former night hag. This night hag goes on to become extremely important in the life of his successor, and even saves him from being deleted. So while the Dream Ruby might not ever be seen again as Morpheus' tool, there is a chance it will return to fulfill the storyline we just described, and allow his successor to take over for him in a smooth transition of power. The pouch sand, Morpheus' trademark as the Sandman. If you guys have been wondering just why Morpheus is called the Sandman, well, there's a simple reason for that. He carries around a pouch of sand with him that allows him to utilize many of his lesser powers as a deity. We're kidding, of course. Morpheus is called the Sandman because of an old Germanic legend that speaks of a Sandman putting children to bed and giving them dreams with his sand. But that is what Neil Gaiman and his team managed to personify with Dream's little pouch. This pouch is a lot more secure than the ruby, because it cannot be opened by mortal hands. In the series, Johanna Constantine buys it from Ethel Cripps, and Johanna is a practicer of the occult arts. In the novel, the possessor of Dream's sand pouch is good old John Constantine, but even he couldn't get it open, and he's a lot better at being an occultist than his female counterpart. While the role of the Constantines might have been gender swapped by the series, one thing that doesn't change is how it affects their ex-girlfriend. Rachel, the woman they were with before abandoning the pouch, gains possession of Dream's sand, and once she holds it in her hands, she becomes addicted to it. So much so that by the time Constantine leads Dream to her, it's too late to save Rachel, because she's been sleeping and dreaming for months on end. Rachel is on the verge of death when Morpheus recovers his sand, so he gives her the gift of mercy by giving her a sleep from which she will never awaken, physically and metaphysically. Now that we've got all the narrative stuff out of the way, let's talk about what this pouch of sand actually does, because for a pocket-sized symbol of power, it's pretty effing cool. If the Dream Ruby manipulates the unconscious space of a person's mind, the sand toys with more tangible aspects of existence. When Dream sprinkles his sand around himself, he can teleport to pretty much any location he so desires by becoming the eye of a really cool desert storm. He can use his sand to put others to sleep, the duration of which he decides, considering Dream's sleep can be a gift or a curse depending on what you did to him. It can also be used to create material things from thin air, and at the same time, Dream can unmake the dreams and nightmares he spawns within his own realm by using his sand. Of course, Dream himself is a part of the sand, in that he doesn't need it to perform the deeds we've described, but having it on him greatly augments his power, as well as his chances of succeeding. At the very least, Dream's pouch of sand is his most secure symbol of office, and not just anybody can make use of it, seeing as only he can draw back its drawstrings. Which brings us neatly to his final and most recognizable tool, which is...
In the dreaming, they do not walk amongst the living, killing.
The Helm of Dream, his sigil and most important symbol of office. The most striking aspect of Dream's character design is not his chalk white skin, or his crazy hair, or the fact that sometimes his eyes twinkle like a literal star. No, it's the fact that he wears a mask that looks like he ripped Cthulhu's head off. Dream's mask looks like a plague doctor mask in the sigil that he uses as his official representation throughout the cosmos. But if you look at it up close and personal, you realize it's more like a squid decided to have a baby with an elephant and turn the trunk into bone. Fun fact about the trunk of Dream's helm, it actually is bone and was made from the spine of a god he personally slayed. So remember Alienora from a few minutes ago? Well, the reason Desire created her was to assist their brother in defeating a couple of elder gods who had invaded his realm. These nameless entities managed to imprison the Lord of Dreams in his own castle, and so when Desire told him they'd made him a new lover to assist him, Dream had no choice but to accept. Together, he and Alienora slew those elder gods, and from their remains, Dream fashioned two things. First was the entrance to his domain, and the second was his mask, fashioned from the head and spine of the elder gods. The graphic novels don't tell us that the mask has any power apart from being Dream's official symbol. It serves as his stamp, his standard, and the ultimate symbol of his authority as the ruler of the dreaming, and one of the Seven Endless. But there are hints that the mask is more than just a symbol, because unlike the Netflix adaptation, Alex Burgess is introduced in the novel while wearing Dream's helm. He claims that the helm is awesome because it makes his dreams better, which suggests that Dream's helm has the effect of augmenting dreams and nightmares. And the show itself gives his helm another power, because we see him using it to locate his ruby. This suggests that Dream's helm is not just his symbol of office and the sigil he uses to represent himself in his siblings' galleries. It's also something of an amplifier and homing device. Dream can most likely use it to locate any of his missing possessions or peoples, though he prefers to only put it on during formal visits to other deities' realms, like when he goes to Hell or when he departs to do battle. Both of those scenarios make even more sense when we consider the fact that deities do not prefer other deities crossing over into their domains, and a war helm is always created with the intention to give its user a power boost, at least in a mythological setting. This makes Dream's helm even more important than his sand or his ruby, because without it, his authority as a ruler and a god simply wouldn't be recognized. Yes, his other symbols of office are important from any ability perspective, but when it comes to representation, Dream's helm reigns supreme. And if you know anything about kings and emperors, they like a good strong symbol that verifies someone's authenticity as opposed to something gentle like flowers or butterflies. Dream wearing a helm, made from the literal carcasses of his enemies, tells us a lot more about him than it does about those gods, because they're dead, and Dream has lived a million lives in a billion timelines. Marvelous verdict. And speaking of timelines, we hope you didn't press the snooze button on us, because that's all we've got for you in this video. Tell us which one of Dream's tools is your favorite in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Sandman content. We'll see you guys in the next one, and until then, stay safe, and if you have a nightmare, try not to focus on a goth-looking man that drifts in and out of it, because there's a chance he might be wearing his resting Cthulhu face. Thanks everyone!